That's a Shame is brought to you by the people who support us over at patreon.com/shamecity.
If you have $1,
$2.
$1 to spare, join us again at patreon.com/shamecity. Please.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
There we go. Harry's eyes moved to Hagrid's back, which quivered with every jerk of his hips. Hagrid was a block of a man, large in every way, muscular and quite a bit hairy. While his ass was not the best one Harry had seen, it still was a damn good one. Hagrid stopped thrusting, so Harry's eyes reluctantly moved away from the ass he had been admiring to find the reason. Hagrid started to move once again. His Oh! Declan! You're here!
Yes.
Episode 146, is it?
That's the one.
Oh, I was just having a read of just something I share with the listeners of the private group.
There's something about Hagrid's hairy ass.
Yeah, because he's care of magical creatures. So they're learning. Oh, this year, Harry will be learning about the hairy ass, the magical hairy donkey ass.
Yep, and it wasn't the best one that Harry had seen.
No, because Harry's quite good at care of magical creatures. He does drop it after OWLs, but that's more because he's got to focus on his aura stuff and how many hairy ass are you likely to see in the wild. It's more of a
that's normally
thing.
where you see them.
Well, no, it's quite domesticated, the ass.
Are they now?
What's the last time you saw an ass just loose in the wild?
Days ago.
Wow.
It was in the Minecraft world.
Oh, yes.
But the wide world itself.
Wow.
Indeed.
Well, welcome back. It's great to be here. Only a couple of days late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right then.
For another huge episode.
We got called out. Cancelled.
We were
summarily dismissed.
We were taken hand in hand and walked into those big blocks in the town square in medieval town where they throw all fruit at you. And the fruit was digital, but the sting, the acid of those rotten tomatoes in the eye felt ever real.
So we're here.
To sting. We're back.
We've been shamed into shame.
Yeah, we're back in a big way, and we've prepared content today between us. We've shouldered that shared burden, much like Hagrid and Harry shared that ass. And all the lessons that they can learn from it.
Yes.
We, too, have prepared a mutually...
Sorry, just to check, is that the last we'll be hearing of Hagrid and Harry in the ass this episode?
I think there's probably more chapters to it on Wattpad, if people are interested. I'll maybe put a link.
But you won't be reading any more just
I guess
today.
If it becomes relevant to the show content, then I'm happy to...
Right, okay.
Happy to kind of get back on it. Because, like I say, there's plenty here. There's A Prophecy of Two Boys, The Other Aunt, a Harry Potter fan fiction. Fan fiction, yeah. It's not strictly canon, but most of us fans kind of accept that Harry did fuck Draco and Hagrid watched. After
class.
After class, but not after they'd finished school, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
But Hogwarts, they were year 10 or something, so they're like 16.
That's
Hagrid doesn't understand age.
Year 10 is 14, 15, just so you know.
Hagrid's going to prison. Oh, Harry.
He's going back to prison.
Does Azkaban have a nonce department?
Oh, I hope so.
God, yeah, it must do, because there's a huge and oft discussed underculture of the Hogwarts, the beautiful wizarding world of Harry Potter that J.K. imagined for us to enjoy, where there are a lot of very problematic things that you could do, like when the adults turn into child Harry, you've got to know they were feeling up their own dick.
Well, they were.
The Polyjuice
100%.
Dick.
That's why some of them were late, and indeed why some of them died.
Yeah, God saw what was going on, and he said, Hedwig, you're going to have to take the blunt end of the wedge for this one.
Moody,
who didn't even turn into Harry, but whose eyes were
neither did Hedwig, but
magically drawn to a certain Polyjuice bulge.
I mean, that special eye is looking under every robe it sees.
Have I ever told you about the song The Polyjuice Pop that I wrote with my friend Will for the Harry Potter musical that we planned in sixth form?
You vaguely mentioned.
I only know the beginning lyric because I didn't do lyrics so much as the music at the time. But it was like you put I can't remember the ingredients for Polyjuice Potion, but Will has an encyclopedic Harry Potter knowledge. It's like you put the something in the potion, stir it up and make a commotion. Dun, 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 dun. It was just like a 12-bar blues thing. Do the Polyjuice pop, yeah. Da, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, ba, ba, ba.
Turn yourself into a child.
There's no wizarding lore about it.
We checked with JK.
Rufus Scrimps is a libertarian. Oh dear.
Felix Felicis. That's got to be dodgy. People are using that for dodgy
Lucky
stuff.
nonces are the most dangerous sort. Oh, what's
you
that?
know, your average
rooms
down
are
on his
unlocked.
luck nonce is no danger to anyone.
Fuck, that's the fucking weaponized luck of a sex offender. Is a terrifying thing that J.K. Rowling has. She didn't directly reference
She
him,
might as well.
She set the framework in which one can only conclude that they do exist en masse in the Harry Potter verse. We seem to have brought the episode down in tone somewhat, which is unfortunate because it's a lofty song.
Down in tone from your opening of reading Harry Potter fanfic.
Yeah, little bit. Which began, in the highest heights.
Right, I see.
Because the written word is...
Well, it started at the highest heights of you using the annotated Ulysses notes to make the sound.
Yes. We've got an episode today with a brand new feature, and if I were an editing man, I'd put a jingle in for that.
Yep.
But
if we were prepared, we'd have thought of an actual title.
I did think of one.
Okay.
Here it is. In script writing, I listen to the script.
Will you just tell me what the fucking title is? I'm so bored of you and your fucking script notes.
Craig
I'm bored of
Mazin.
absolutely
He did The
everything
Hangover,
coming
but
with a
now he did
fucking
Chernobyl.
with a
And apparently it was really
pre-prepared
good as well.
Preamble of bullshit.
It's not
Just tell me what it's
pre-prepared.
called.
I just open my mouth and let the wisdom flow. What they have in the Comosphere, and you'll know, you're a paid BBC contributor as of today, only a matter of years after we submitted one of the worst jokes God ever did. What they have is this concept of the punch-up, where you write a script, and then they'll be like, good script, we need to get more jokes per page. So they hire in like 10 writers, comedy writers, just sit around the table and be like, what if instead of Ron saying blimey at this point, he starts telling the aristocrats joke. If the end of that joke was the aristocrats, then it would be such a darker joke. But yeah, so what I thought was, that's about making stuff better.
And that's how they made Chernobyl, is it?
It is.
He wrote a
exactly
script, and then they got
we need more jokes in
10
this.
guys to come in and write jokes.
All these down Russians. That's the punch up. I'm saying that what we're doing is trying to make things worse. It's called Punch Down. It also has a nice reference to the thing about comedy punching up.
Yeah, and so we're doing the opposite.
I'm sure you'll agree, a very clever title, and if you'd like to applaud, then now's the time.
I won't,
Now's
because
the
it's
time.
crass, and it doesn't come across well on audio.
You can do the clicks.
But that worse.
Oh, that's Declan
what I'm
clicking
gonna
now.
do is I'm just going to
No,
do the
that's him
nod.
clicking.
I'm going to do a nod.
And he's clicking as well. That's really good to hear and to see. So,
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Punching Down.
maybe I should have got the instruments. I can still...
No, it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Basically, this feature came about because it was this week announced that Netflix have put into motion one of the singularly worst ideas for a television show.
Since we tried to write one.
Well,
It was roundly refused entry into even the most paltry stations.
you may be aware, listeners, of the cult sci-fi phenomenon Stranger Things from Netflix.
Made by a robot where they plugged in the 80s and all its memorabilia and associate, tinted
Paraphernalia.
nostalgia, accoutrement, longing for youth in the guise of this kind of fundamentally quite shit technology, but good aesthetic and music that carries it through. You're a big fan, of course.
I enjoyed the first series. I thought it was
And
fun.
the second series...
Haven't watched.
Okay.
But you may be aware of Gaten Matarazzo, who plays the curly-haired of the children.
Wow, and I just want to put this out there. He has curly hair in real life as well.
Yeah.
So that was why they cast him.
Yeah, that was it.
They did an open call, and I think 100,000 kids went. Only one of them curly enough
They went
for the role. He was
That's the Gaten for us.
like, get me Gaten.
This headline has done the rounds. I'm sure that many, if not most of our listeners will have seen it.
Yeah. And they'll have been gagging for our sideways take on the event.
Well, exactly. People always are.
Yeah.
They're messaging us left, right and centre, although not quite enough.
Most of them are Jennifer Lopez, it turns out.
Yes.
Which we should read out if you have a moment.
Well, it's the first shame mail we've had in 4 months. Gaten Matarazzo's cool new Netflix prank show is all about screwing with people trying to find work.
Gut check. How are you feeling about it?
Well,
how does it make you feel? What emotions provoked?
As a people trying to find work, I thought straight away I wouldn't want people screwing with me.
Right.
And worst of all,
isn't that selfish?
Worst of all, a rich kid, a rich dumb kid.
Let me hit you with these two things.
Okay.
First of all, he's pretty cute though, isn't he? He's got a fun, like, peppy energy. You can imagine him maybe like as a newsboy in the 20s, like, "Gee, mister, mind if I fuck you over on the dole?" While you're in the queue for like the job centre.
Right.
But he would annoy you, but it would be like that. You'd shake your fist, but then there'd be a moment where you walk away and you're
smile.
like, "Oh, that if only." And it somehow speaks to your own youth.
No, it didn't speak to my youth.
So there's that element,
because
which
my
I think
youth
you'll find
involved
charming.
no millions of dollars.
Right. Okay, but you didn't pull yourself up by any bootstraps and get a big Netflix job, did you?
No, I didn't. Yeah,
Lazy.
They weren't really going.
Now, the second thing, which I alluded to, is the idea that you're perhaps being a little bit, I don't want to say
biased,
conceited and self-serving, because obviously people would find it funny to watch you, a job seeker, be toyed with by an evil millionaire child. Mm-hmm. And so in denying them that privilege, where by any utilitarian metric, their pleasure outweighs your own, are you not just categorically stating that you're above and therefore better than them?
No, because what I'm saying is
that they don't deserve your torment.
I'm saying that the sum total of their fleeting and transient amusement at the television show is somewhat trumped by the utter despair of me being fucked with and poor.
Okay, because it's the combination, isn't it?
It's
it's
a
fine
bad
to be fucked with.
combination.
It's fine to be, but together, never the twain shall meet. I've always maintained.
This article is from the AV Club. It's a short one.
They're a sponsor,
and they say thus: TV prank shows are kind of like measles epidemics. They're sudden, happen seemingly at random, and it's hard to believe that they're still popping up in 2019. And yet we feel compelled by public duty to note that people everywhere should be on the lookout for Stranger Things star Gaten Matarazzo, who has just begun production on an 8-episode Netflix prank series targeting our most laugh-ready of societal victims, people just trying to find a damn job.
Nice.
Per Deadline, the terrifying and hilarious prank encounters eschews the punked ethos, where you were really only in trouble if you were friends of a friend with Ashton Kutcher or an open car-loving wound like Zach Braff, in favour of people who think they're starting the first day of a part-time job. These lucky, scare quotes, contestants, already presumably freaked out by the tenuous spectre of employment in the modern economy, are then subjected to, quote, business as usual until their paths collide and these part-time jobs turn into full-time nightmares. Props to Matarazzo, who'll host the series as well as be executive producer, alongside fellow
Isn't it disgusting
EPs.
that a child can be an exec producer?
Alongside fellow EPs Ben Silverman, Howard Owens, Kevin Healy, and Rob Hyde. Oh, I've skipped on to a different article.
Well, that's all right. We got
about
the meat out
Ellen
of it.
DeGeneres. But yeah, essentially,
We sucked the marrow out of that bone, I would say.
yeah, they basically end with some pun about the upside down.
One discussion that we had when you raised this as a potential podcast topic was how amused we are by the idea that Gaten, is he called Gaten?
Yeah.
Isn't just the face of this
He's not a
project.
patsy.
Yeah, he's not just like they came up with it. Some cynical, jaded cunts came up with this plan and were like, how do we market this fundamentally?
Get us the curly-haired kid.
Who's that peppy boy off Stranger Thing? They would think it was called Stranger Thing singular. And maybe some of the other ones, what's his name? Finn Wolfstock or something. Finn Wolfhard.
Wolfhard?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe he turned it down or he was busy doing It Chapter 2.
He was busy being fucked by 40-year-old women.
Oh yeah, on Twitter, who
Yeah.
won't stop going on about that.
No.
Try as you might to mute them and indeed report them. It's not just that Gaten is the emblem of the project. I like to imagine that he
is the brains behind
the whole thing, and that he personally
approached Netflix.
Yes, like he's been begging. I think for Gaten, Stranger Things was but a stepping stone,
a gateway,
but a small
a foot in the door
on the celestial mountain to fucking over the port. I like to imagine that he has, like I said, class consciousness, but as a member of the most austere capitalist class, and is just getting off on the idea of squashing.
Well, he definitely is.
Squashing
100%.
Now, do you think that's a phase? Do people go through that phase as a youth? Because a lot of people, when they're like 15, they kick a homeless man to death, and then they become members of
Parliament.
Yeah, pretty much conservative mainstream ideology and things like that. But it was just a prank, they'll say, or I did grow out of it, and they'll retract the general kind of act whilst perhaps dog whistling that they still agree with the sentiment. Do you think for Gaten this is just like he's got too much money at too young of an age, doesn't really know what he's doing, or is the malice there?
It's an interesting idea, isn't it? The idea that this could be more than just his idea. This is like his ideology. That this is something ingrained. There's a chance. I think he is young, so there is hope that he can learn, and we should be ready and willing for him to learn.
But I think what he's going to learn after 8 episodes is how fun and
easy it is,
fiscally rewarding it is
to fuck over people who have nothing.
Yeah, the world has kind of already done Gaten's job for him.
Yeah,
and he's really just kicking them while they're down. Yeah, the final blow, the straw that breaks the camel's back.
So when I saw this tweet, it was accompanied by a story from someone who was like an American comedy writer who mentioned that they had once, on a show she was working on, had a little session in the writer's room where they tried to come up with an idea for the worst, like the most horrible prank show that they could, that you could like feasibly achieve. And theirs was people coming around from like simple anesthesia for a routine operation, being tricked into thinking that they'd been in a coma for 30 years. And she said, I think this is worse. Like, I think that they've managed to find something worse. It's like, it's so simple. It's such a simply evil idea.
It makes you wonder how we've all missed it.
Yeah.
How this market has remained untapped.
How have I not myself thought,
Pitchless.
wow, you could make an absolute mint off of watching me crying, scrolling through the Indeed.com website and then pretending to give me any of their jobs.
Yeah.
But we thought, how on earth could we make this worse?
Our interest was piqued, and we thought, is there a way to punch this idea down?
No, we didn't say that at the time because we hadn't come up with the branding.
In my memory, we did say that.
But
we high-fived. Like in Mario Party, where it's like, ready? Yeah. And we did that. We did that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We did do that.
All right,
sure.
that happened.
So we thought what we'd do is a kind of free-form verbal tennis match of suggestions, much like we talked about in our last quickfire, which actually isn't out yet. So
our next
quickfire for you, patrons, God bless you all, of the improv concept of yes and.
Yeah.
We thought we'd try and build, modifying as we require, on each other's ideas to create the nadir of the topic.
I think as well there should be some exploration rather than a mere tennis match of like, what is it that is bad about this idea, and therefore is there any way to exacerbate that?
Yeah.
Like, so the things that make this so bad is is the vulnerability of the people involved.
Yeah.
And the desperation of the people involved.
Yeah.
It's such a near singularly horrible thing to be without a means to support yourself, because it means that every single expense comes with absolutely no balance to check it, and therefore everything is kind of laced with a little bit of guilt, and everything is laced with this idea of the looming spectre of larger expenses to come, means of keeping yourself alive.
Snowballing into
and
grave.
so the relief of something like that,
of that email where it's like, you've got it.
Yeah.
We choose you. You
Is-
interviewed. We saw you. We get you. Come and work for minimum wage.
and beyond, the purely like financial aspect, there is always a kind of sense of personal pride when things like that come your way. Of like I got recognized for being good enough to do something. Like
Absolutely.
because it's very easy to tell yourself that you are not when you have nothing that you've been chosen to do.
So it's a nice external reminder of your value.
Yes.
Even if it's, for Gaten, a fairly small value relative to his own as international
and that
Netflix
is
star.
actually quantifiable in a fiscal sense.
And what that suggests to me then is that an obvious kind of, just a mathematical, fairly banal, but arguably important and fundamental way of tilting the balance even further towards horror is an even richer person makes this show about even more vulnerable people. We just expand that chasm. Elon Musk shitting on a food bank.
Like homeless people, homeless kids.
Yeah.
Homeless kids.
Homeless dying kids.
Homeless dying kids think they're getting a home. We get Philip McLeod, is that his name? What's his name? Kevin
McLeod.
That's him.
Hang on. Who is Kevin McLeod?
No.
Isn't he Grand Designs or something?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we get him in. He consults with them.
Yeah.
He thinks it's real too. he thinks he's doing
doesn't
the
know
Lord's
what's
work.
going on.
Because then we get the triple whammy of when the show comes out and he watches it and he sees that afterwards he built these lovely houses and Elon just lives in all of them.
Yes, and we get the Extreme Makeovers Home Edition people to do that thing where they like put up loads of what's it called, where you like obstruct the view.
Oh yeah, they get the truck in the way and they have to move it out.
And they've not built anything.
it's their old cardboard box.
They've actually just removed more.
It's their old cardboard box and Elon's kicking it to bits in
Elon
front
Musk
of them.
is just grinning.
He's flogging off their blankets for like a couple of quid.
There's a fucking Boston Dynamics robot sucking him off, gold plated. That would be quite a reveal, I think.
Yeah, and to have it every episode, really hammering it home.
Yeah. Now, I've got another wrinkle that I think might be good.
Okay.
Is that one of the areas where I think Gaten, in his infinite wisdom, has perhaps dropped the ball.
Right.
Is on when it comes to maximising the humiliation, which is at the core of any prank show, which can, we should add, be well handled by the prankers. Impractical Jokers.
Yep.
The joke is 99% of the time on
the person doing the prank.
And that's where the comedy comes from. It's not from like, let's embarrass this poor person.
Yeah.
And also I don't want to, overstep the mark, but I do think they're probably funnier, cleverer, better informed, nicer, just comedians,
more wholesome, yes,
than old Gaten. Long may he reign. But one of the areas where I think he might
his
be
name.
just missing a trick, and far be it from me to offer it up, but I shall, is in the variety. And what I think is like a good Stuart Lee routine, I think he needs to extend the duration for longer than seems comfortable at first. And so for that reason, I'm suggesting that all 8 episodes, it's the same person over like, maybe we do like Boyhood and it's filmed over like 18 years of just tracking this one.
Gaten's 60.
Gaten's campaign of terror and humiliation on someone who's slipping ever further and further into abject desolation and poverty.
I like the idea. Loving the scope.
Yeah. Well, it turns it into a kind of avant-garde thing.
What I'm thinking, though, that the trouble there is that if it is just the one person, that opens the door for some bad faith, fool me once, fool me twice critics to come in and say, well, actually, it's his fault for being gimped by Gaten 8 times across his lifetime.
Gaten, yeah.
So I feel like I like the idea of this extension.
Okay.
Maybe it's the duration of the prank of each individual one. It's not like, they have a fine first week and then it turns out that like, things get hard and then things get What if
They were working
they're in
for
this job?
ISIS.
They're in this job for 2 years. They get promoted,
Yeah.
and then the scam is that actually,
They were being paid in Monopoly money.
no, worse, they have to pay back
Oh, no.
the money. That it turns out that they've been framed as running a scam in
Right.
this company, and they owe all of the
Or
money.
maybe they like... Gaten comes in, like I'm just trying to picture that reveal because it's going to be monumental television.
Yeah.
It's going to be a real water cooler.
He's in like one of those like FBI windbreakers.
Yeah. I think he'd probably kick a wall in, like when the police were hiding behind fake walls
Like
at
the
the Millennium
fucking
Dome.
Kool-Aid man or whatever it is.
Yes. What I'm thinking is that we cut back. So Gaten breaks in with the reveal, and he's got a camera right up in this guy's face, and it will be a man. Right up in his grill.
What's the child?
The child man is confused. The baby child, and bewildered and afraid immediately. But I think there'll be a glimmer of recognition in his eye when he realizes that it was all too good to be true. I don't deserve this. I was born poor. I have lived poor. I will always be and deserve to be. The underclass is what he will hear from Gaten's piercing stare. And maybe we cut back. And when he signed his contract, the HR guy was Gaten in some very advanced prosthesis that Elon Musk will provide.
Yeah, of course.
Probably he'll be a very giant Gaten. And the guy will just be like, oh, he looks a bit like, but he wasn't 9 foot tall, that one from Stranger Things. Unless they did some very clever Gandalf and Bilbo fourth perspective.
In which case, a miracle they cast him, because they could have just picked any other curly haired one.
It's the charm, okay? He's got a real pep in his step. And maybe, because Gaten's such a conversationalist, a garrulous chap, and he just exudes that energy and charm, charisma. While the guy was signing his contract, Gaten's just like constantly engaging him so that he's not really reading it properly. And actually, he was signing up to a Kidzania style job experience 2-year workshop where it's like, we'll give you what it's like to be employed for the low fee of all the money you would be paid per week, but to us instead.
Right, I see.
And so Gaten comes a calling, maybe with a comedy like a novelty piggy bank or something.
Yeah.
Or a novelty like member of the armed forces.
It's a novelty check for all the money.
Yeah.
But then he has to sign it back.
It's in his name.
And then Gaten poses for a photo with the check, because all the money goes to him.
Well, of course it does.
Yeah.
That's not
This
even
is
a question.
his project. Like, he works so hard.
What's interesting that I really admire that Gaten's done in his commitment to the kind of prank ethos is that the money doesn't go directly to him. It's actually filtered through several important and functionally useful charities. First, Oxfam.
The Institute of Economic Affairs.
Yeah, less. I'm thinking like Doctors Without Borders. He will give it to them and he'll charge it right back. Straight away.
I see.
So he'll publicly say, I've given you a donation, send it off, prank.
And then he's doing the
charge back. And that's just another element of his
I'm
commitment.
thinking he should give money to like the IEA, maybe the Adam Smith Institute,
Okay.
just to fund new ways for like neoliberal capitalism, to just make the poor chap's situation even harder.
Okay, by by kind of trickling the wealth up.
And then at least we as the public would know at least one of their funders.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be made clear then. Another way we could make the show worse is if everything's like very sponsored by the companies that Gaten will pay to never employ the man.
Yes.
And each week, a new giant of industry, a titan, will blacklist the willing
A
participant.
new race.
Will blacklist an entire people, community, class from ever working for above a kind of barely poverty wage, like
So-
Tim Martin might
So the
pay.
minimum wage.
Yeah, that's the one.
You heard of it?
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty
That's
solid.
pretty poor. Yeah, that's
It's a pretty
quite
good
exploitative
show.
now.
Pretty good, bad show we've done there.
Yeah.
We've come up with 2 more each in the classic genres of game,
Book
film. No, that was... Oh, yeah, it was me. Film.
and theatre.
Yeah. And I think you should start.
You think I should start? Which would you prefer?
Whichever you think.
Book or play?
Go
I'm
with
going to do
whichever
book.
your comedy rhythm suggests.
I'm going to do book. It's a poetry collection, actually. And it's a set of haiku about the rape of Nanking.
Wow, okay. How many are we talking?
How many victims?
I don't know. Lots.
One for each.
I think it's lots.
It's huge. It's a big book.
Now, haiku, obviously that's to pay homage. I can make it worse straight away by it being written by, for example, just a white guy.
Oh, maybe it's written by what's his name? Glenn Beck.
Okay, Glenn Beck taking his first foray into art. What if it's not even Glenn Beck? It's like Glenn Beck put his face on it, but it's actually like ghost written by someone from Craigslist.
Yeah, or maybe that man whose book you edit.
Oh yes, absolutely. Good use of edit in the present tense.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's been going on for 2,500 years. Oh dear.
So it's a random white guy, but then it's being presented as prolific racist and shill Glenn Beck.
Yep.
It's a set of haiku, and it is about an atrocity of great scale and horror.
Yeah. Maybe he or the writer has never looked up what it actually is, and it's wildly speculative.
Yeah.
Perhaps they think it's a kind of event from a Shakespearean or like a Greek tragedy that happens, like, is it the Rape of Lucretia?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could think it's like follows on from that. Which, you know, if that's the only one you'd heard of.
They think it's a person called Nan King.
Yeah, who was a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, it's very pro.
Oh, right. Interesting. Now that is bad.
Yeah.
Let me just Google that.
Hang on.
It is bad.
It is bad. Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. It's pro, and yet it's anti-Japanese.
Okay, that's a very difficult line to straddle.
It's like it manages to be racist, and yet saying this the worst thing that happened was good.
Pro-perpetrator and anti-victim.
Yeah.
That is a powerful vacuum for that art to inhabit. And I use the word art advisedly.
Well, yeah.
Moving on.
So, do you think we made it worse?
I think we made it worse.
Okay.
Punch down.
Wow. That is punching down some.
God, yeah. Game. This is a game I've come up with. A fun game, a game to play. It'll be on the Nintendo Switch.
It'll be on the Nintendo Switch.
It'll be on the Ouya. You remember the Ouya?
Will it be cross-platform entirely?
You'll have to log in with your Nintendo, Microsoft
and
Sony and
accounts.
Your personal insurance policy. This is inspired a little by recent activities, which is me downloading Stardew Valley and sort of handing over a tenth of my soul, Horcrux style, to the newly established Beebrook farm, which is, thank you, thriving, with my sprinkler that waters up to 2 plants from my 50-something collection every day. Really powerful stuff. It's a life simulator, and already I want you to think of some of the classics in the genre. Yeah, this is my game. The Sims, Stardew, Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing. All of these games, they inhabit a space of familiarity tinged with an escapism from your own existence. Stardew exhibits it most prominently, I would say, out of that lot, because, although actually having said that, in The Sims you can be magic, so I guess that's more of an escape.
Yeah.
But it very directly, like I was telling you, it starts with this kind of anti-capitalist sense of needing to return to collective values and escape from the homogeny of city life and banal industry, which is, you know, it's cool for a game to say. But what's interesting about them is the variety, is the depth, and people do spend thousands of hours in these sorts of things. So what I've suggested is a life sim where you play as someone who is in a coma. It's not the kind of coma you're coming out of either, and I do want to
make that clear. But is that clear in game?
It's very clear in game. The opening cutscene will explain with some very graphic imagery that we'll have to just get around the ESRB, I think they're called. It'll be like a PEGI 18 at best.
Yeah.
Maybe unrateable, to be honest. We might have to sell it by the back door, just in alleys, old school style, round door to door. It will have one of the most harrowing intro sequences, and it will be a real snuff movie. Perhaps like that famous... There's a clip that everyone talks about that I've never seen that's like watch people die material of just some people driving along on a road, and then a brick flies off the van in front and just comes through the windscreen, kills someone dead.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not a clip, because why would that be on camera? Why would they be filming that?
Dashcam.
Yeah, I guess so. Although I think it was a while ago before moving footage was fully ingrained.
Oh, right, I see.
But I think that level of what I want to capture, I suppose, is the randomness of
death
and how mortality is less a light at the end of a tunnel or an extinguishing of the light that fills the tunnel, but more just a roll of the dice. And every day you line up against old Spectre spooky death and you say, what have we got today? And if it's Snake Eyes, which I don't know if that's good or bad in the game of craps, then consequently you will either live or die.
Wow.
And that will be made clear, as I say, by a real life snuff movie. After that, the game will be just normal graphics.
That person, it's less a roll of a dice than you've been specific.
Well, they're actually from episode 8 of Gaten's Prank Show. That's what the great build-up is.
It was be in this snuff film or be the subject of season 2, and they couldn't sign quickly enough. I like this. I like the brutality. I like the grittiness.
And it really says something, I think you'll agree.
It does say a lot.
And then it says a lot and then nothing.
But I think as with the Gaten thing, I think the real horror comes from the hope, which is why I think that the aim of the game should expressly be that the aim of the game is to kind of, because you know how, especially in art, I think more than in real life, there's a huge focus on
maintaining brain activity.
Maintaining brain activity, but also trying to find some sense of familiarity in order to bring someone back.
Oh, if he hears your voice every day,
and so
playing a favourite song.
Maybe you're not playing the person in the coma, you're just playing their closest relative. You can't leave the room, but it's your job to wake them up, but you cannot.
Interesting.
So the hope, like the aim of the game, is to get them to wake up.
I've got a wrinkle to that, and I love where you've taken that. Okay. Genuinely very excited about this project that we will be making. What about, it's a kind of asynchronous single player experience where on odd numbered days, such as when you start, you are the grieving other half. In fact, let's let the player choose who they are. They can be a son, a daughter, an aunt, an uncle, maybe a neighbour.
Yeah.
Maybe a life partner.
Maybe a pet.
Maybe a pet indeed. On those days, like you say, you've got all these, let's think of what some of the meters would be. Love. You've got to show them enough love to kind of bring them back. That'll be through things like leaving gifts, intimacy, familiarity, trying to like tap into some of these memories
to establish a more recognizable and comfortable environment for
because I was thinking like a third person Sims sort of view, but then maybe there are moments where it's like a first person point and click adventure where you're going through their house and memories to try and identify things that could call them back to you.
Wow, that is an adventure.
Like you could find video from their wedding day if you were not their other half. And you could listen to what song was their first dance and then try and collect like a phonograph.
Sing that yourself.
Sing it yourself through a very difficult QuickTime event that is unskippable, must be 100%ed, and is 44 minutes real time.
Yeah.
Just because it's got to be the whole kind of dance experience.
Obviously.
That's day one. And then on all the even numbered days, you're the person in the coma. And you have almost nothing to do. And it is, again, it's 24 hours real time. While you're listening, the second, so it's not the next day.
It's the same
perspective
day.
switch, but then so it's
you
like
just
how
have to
well
live
you
through
did.
the same things. Yeah.
But only on those days do you realise that like none of it's
the
doing
futility.
anything.
Maybe there could, we can play with that. Like some days it's like that on days where you're the victim, all you have is this meter at the side. It's pitch black. Apart from a grey meter at the side, that is your like closeness to waking up. It's like the consciousness,
and maybe the screen's like lightening as you approach that.
and it's getting, and on some days it gets so close, but it's like that Darren Brown experiment where there's the people in the room and they have a bunch of random objects and they're told things that they do will have an effect. So what some guy starts like. Fucking teabagging
we should explain that thoroughly because that's quite a confusing thing. But there's like a point thing. I think the original experiment they just give points to when
it's just points
at random, so points are awarded. But the people in the room start to develop these rituals about like, oh, I picked up a coaster and then said, Charles, look. And then we got 50 points. So they just keep going like,
Charles, look! And even though nothing's happening,
they're
they're
still
certain.
attached to it after like one instance. It's really fucking cool idea.
And so
that's never been harnessed in a game before.
No, so we implement that so that the people think, oh, wait, yeah, there was... If I did just a bit more of this, then I could be there. And it's not true.
Maybe.
I think as well, built in, this is just for our own kind of sadistic amusement, there should be some kind of mad, simple option. So we spent hours last night playing Minecraft, trying to find some buried treasure, dug up nearly the whole earth, and it was 1 foot under the ground right next to where we'd started digging the whole time.
We found after hours and hours.
And I think that we should implement something to do with that, but never actually tell anyone that there's a pixel on the screen. If you click it, you wake up.
So it can be one.
It can be one.
Yeah.
But you have to click at a certain time
and
during
what about
the day.
It's tied to like the computer clock in real life.
Yeah.
So it has to be at like on the hour. You have to click it on
exactly on the hour, a specific hour.
And we can say that it's hinted at because the car crash or whatever it was happened at that time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you obviously should have tried that.
Yeah, why didn't you click this?
What are you, some kind of a Gaten victim? Idiot. I like this.
Yeah.
I think, as well, I like the idea of making the theme of the game about struggling to communicate from both sides.
Yeah.
So the one person is able to communicate freely, but two, ostensibly, no one. Because we know, as the game creators, that there is no coming back.
No.
Most likely. And then the other person, when we shift the perspective, is unable to communicate. But I think if we gave the player the ability to try, then they'd really feel what it would be like to have that kind of diving bell and the butterfly experience. So maybe they can type loads of messages in response to what's happening with the kind of the suggestion that they're going to factor in later, and they never, ever will.
I think we would also maybe be able to program like an AI to manipulate whatever they've typed in to mean kind of the opposite, like edit things out. So they say something like,
I love that song from my wedding.
Yeah.
My good wedding.
Or, you know, I never stopped loving you.
Yeah.
But then when it comes through to them when you're in the coma the next day, you just go like, I never loved you.
Okay, so
and
it's hopelessness.
so yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
What if there's some? I'm thinking really dark here. You know, there's that famous story on Reddit of the guy whose family were attacked while he had noise cancelling headphones on.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
And he like was playing a game with the noise cancelling headphones on upstairs and just had a feeling that like something was wrong. He thought he heard something, ignored it, and then thought he heard it again, took them off and went downstairs, and like there was like a home invasion.
Is the end of it that they died?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's good.
But what I'm thinking is maybe while you're in the coma, like you can hear some sort of like, I don't know, attack in the hospital.
Or when the person's out of the room, you can hear like the news broadcast like, imminent threat from the Soviets, set in the Reagan era. Mr. Gorbachev.
Angered by the Star Wars program. Yeah, and you know there's nothing, and they come back in and they're like, oh, we should go to, you know, the World Trade Center today on the 11th of September 2001.
Year of our Lord.
And you're like, no! And then like you never hear from that person, you can't play as that character again.
In the vein of futility as well, it might be nice to have an incredibly robust like design simulation like The Sims, where you can really customize every element down to like the last pixel of the hospital room for no reason. There is
absolutely
there's nothing
reason
to be gained. And in fact, in many ways, the more beautiful and spectacular the room becomes, the sadder by comparison the
literal black screen,
lifeless experience of our comatose patient.
Yeah. And perhaps the more you do that, maybe the room is so incredibly depressing that you can't help but do it up. But whenever you put something new in, their consciousness meter just drops.
What if we've got some random like scripted events that can take place, and we could tie them again to the clock? I really am into endgames to do that. But for example, the hospital beds, mechanized as they usually are, like one day it just sits up and you're like, "What? Oh, fuck." And that'll happen like maybe once every real life year. So that by the time it happens again, you've forgotten. You're like, "Oh, all that I've done, it's come true." One thing I'm thinking could be a problem is that unlike the Gaten element of the person being roped in unawares, and unlike the haiku collection, which was thrust out into the world totally unasked for,
against our consent,
this one we do require player agency to keep going. What's the hook for the player?
Well, I think that we just have a very strong social media presence that's dropping hints like this
an ARG that goes nowhere.
Exactly.
Or maybe we can build in many ARG elements that do go to places, but not one of them has even, and I want to stress this, the slightest chance, a snowflake's chance in hell.
We cannot stress enough that unless you click this pixel on this second of the day, on this day of the year,
That's it.
That is it.
Yeah.
It is not happening.
It just can't be happening.
But of course, we sell them the dream that it will.
Could we get any rhythm game elements in? Like a kind of...
if you don't keep up the breathing for a full real-time hour.
I think variety is something we could play with, because it's a comment on the lack of variety of experience for the person, the victim.
Yeah.
And so maybe like every few months, like we patch in another mini game where it's like arranging the IV tubes in a fun, like, oh, they've been tangled, quick, get it before a bubble enters into the transfusion.
And it becomes basically that Wario game. For
Wario
5 minutes.
That'd be very good. Or maybe from the second perspective.
But we should stress, like, if you fail, you have to watch the initial snuff film again.
Yeah, and the game resets.
Yeah.
And it's a different... There's 2 people dying.
Each time there's more. You've got a whole hospital.
And your family tree mural, which is the load screen for the game, is just slowly crossed out.
Blackened. Struck.
Looks like it's been redacted from history. I like the idea of hinting at the possibility of recovery in the form of like some game about like firing off neural connections. So it would be like a puzzle, like almost a match 3 thing, where you're like playing a sort of Tetris-y inside the head game.
Yeah.
To try and make these neural connections that are like, oh, this is how to move my arm. But it will never work.
It will not work.
Now, I want to just get that again. It will
never.
It will not. It could not.
We haven't programmed into the game
There is
the ability
no way
to do
of
that.
in fact, we've programmed the impossibility. We preclude it in the very assembly code of the piece.
The possibility of even a bug.
This game is in early access for so long, and so many bugs have been squashed that even allow a flicker, a glimmer of hope to exist.
People thought, although we checked and it was a mere psychological phenomenon, they thought that maybe they saw the character smile. No, they were not smiling.
You did not. That was on your
and
own.
We've now programmed in that their face is blacked out for the whole. They're just a shadow.
Well, punch
down. I've got a play.
Okay.
Now, for my play idea, I just need to explain that we're riffing off a classic, and I just want to make sure that the audience are familiar with the play Noises Off.
Okay.
Do you know the play Noises Off?
I don't think so.
It's a famous, I think it's Michael Frayn, or maybe it's just someone like him, but it is a very funny play, and it is a classic like theatre farce.
Okay.
In which the first act is a play that's going wrong.
Okay.
And the second act is the exact same time, but shows you what was happening backstage for the whole thing. Idea. For that,
like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead.
Yes,
vibes.
But if you had Hamlet as the first act, one act Hamlet,
which someone that we know suggested that you did.
Yeah,
which I just want to put this out there. I think it was Toby.
Yeah,
because if anyone could do this, it would be fucking.
If
great.
they can do fucking 9 hours of Angels in America, you can.
But his idea was like a walkthrough.
Yeah,
where Hamlet is going on, the play is going on, but you can just wander backstage. That would be fucking
amazing.
Great idea.
Yeah. So here's my idea.
Yeah.
First act, the first half, is a really heart-wrenching play about the life and seminal moments of Martin Luther King.
Dr. King, yeah.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yep.
And the second act is behind the scenes of all these moments, showing that actually Dr. King was a fucking idiot and all of the good things that he did, all those good speeches,
Yeah.
were written by a white man.
And it was Mr. Bean.
I was thinking maybe they were actually a white supremacist. But
What's
the
the
comedy
angle?
comes from he's so fucked off with how stupid Dr. King is that he's like, listen, just fucking say this.
Say something about a dream.
And then, of course, he calls him a bunch of words we can't say.
Gamer words.
Yeah, some gamer words. But like, there's a real. I really want to hammer home how offensively wrong the second act portrayal of Dr. King is. Like, he comes off the stage and he's putting on some kind of weird 1920s racist cartoon voice,
Like the crows in Dumbo.
Worse.
Okay.
But that's kind of the vibe that I'm thinking. We're thinking like this would be banned like fucking zippity doo.
Is the style of comedy, is it quite slapstick?
It is in the second half, but
the first act is
it's so straight.
dignified.
It's so straight. It's like heart-wrenching.
So we need an incredible
and the second half, you're thinking, oh my god, like what on earth could this be? Because the first act finishes with the assassination.
That's going to be hard to watch.
Yeah, and it turns out that he shot himself.
Oh no, it bounced off something maybe.
No, he set up the sniper rifle to fake an assassination and then put a real bullet in.
It does have a kind of Beanian quality that
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to get Rowan Atkinson in blackface. And I think
That would make it worse. Yeah.
Actually, he probably is one of the few of that kind of Oxbridge set of comics who wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think. Now that Monty Python have broadly
Roundly.
revealed themselves to be the cunts that I personally credit myself for always knowing they were. So Rowan's, maybe Rowan can like movement direct the piece.
Yeah. We don't tell him.
No,
Because then we get the extra tragedy of his reputation being ruined.
Yeah, we don't tell him what we don't ever let him see the first act. So he just thinks this is a second act about a character who happens to be called and go through all the same events as one of the greatest
you don't think Rowan will pick up on
activists
that?
of all time. He's a dumb idiot. He's a dumb idiot.
Okay.
I don't know if you know that. The Bean is a documentary I've heard.
Yeah.
The Bean.
Who are we getting to play the good doctor?
Well, I think that's got to be part of what's horrible about it. To really make this horrible idea even worse, I think it should maybe be
Mark Wahlberg.
Wow. I mean, sure. What I was thinking is they did Sweet Charity at the Donmar Warehouse, I think, here recently.
Right.
And one of the characters was played by a variety of famous black actors and people in the kind of acting space. Gateau Chocolat had a go, which was probably excellent. What I think is we do that, but it's exclusively very rich, white business leaders portraying Dr. King.
Right.
And I think that would, everyone would hate it and it would be bad.
Yeah.
And therefore, we'd win the feature.
Here's to make it even more horrible, we get very, very talented black actors
to understudy.
To understudy, first of all, but to play Dr. King in the second half. So they have to do the humiliating racist bit themselves.
Okay.
And it's like, again, I think maybe we get Gaten involved. They think they're signing on to do an actual biopic of him.
Because that's got to be the role of a lifetime.
9 foot tall Gaten's there with his chat
and you can't say no
and
to
his
that.
hair. Well, no. And he's like,
he's going to like trick you with his charm.
And Chiwetel Ejiofor's like, are you sure? Like, he's turning to his agent. He's like, is this because there is a 9 foot child and he has been known to exploit people. And he's like, don't. And Gaten's like, Chiwetel.
Gaten's bellowing, I think, by this point. In a gleeful, like John Goodman.
Yeah.
Gleeful, bordering on maniacal.
And it's just that sort of where you're like, sure, sign it to get out of the room. And then bang.
Because how bad could it be?
Yeah.
And the answer is, it's the worst thing anyone's ever done.
It's so
and it will
bad.
Single-handedly reverse any slight progress.
And any civil rights movement.
Forever.
Yeah. And,
the earth will be cancelled.
But also, not just for like people of colour.
Yeah.
We're talking like women's right to vote, gone.
Really? Straight
Workers'
away.
rights, gone.
And is that after the premiere? Or maybe a rehearsed reading? the word gets out, and maybe people as a whole just decide that enough is enough.
No, I think that what happens is that we are forced by the Gaten's super company, that obviously is running all of these.
Gaten Inc.
Yeah.
It's called,
They basically
Softworks.
They know they've set it up, and they're like, by the way, at the end of this, we will be cancelling all kind of civil rights and whatnot.
And because they've been running the prank show for maybe a decade now, they've got their fingers in so many corporate pies that they probably could.
They can do that, and I think that also people assume it's a Gaten prank, and then after a year of honestly like harrowing reviews, probably several cast suicides.
Several full casts, kind of pacting their way out.
Several theatres self-immolating. They just go, you know what, we'll call it a day, and then that's it. Like back to the camps.
So you're suggesting this is almost like a false flag play, where it's like the capitalist Gaten himself, who I see as really the arch nemesis of collective
the proletariat.
Poor boy. I mean, he's probably a bit of a dick, but I think this is a bit
probably
sad. He probably doesn't listen anymore. No. I think we turned him off. We lost him after the project. He doesn't have that kind of avant-garde yet. What I'm thinking though is that this is it very much is, and maybe all of these things do fall under Gaten's master plan to produce things so offensively bad in so many different ways. That people are forced to just, their spirits are broken, and that society as a whole, every individual, just gives in. There's just a collective sigh of not relief, but of ennui. There's nothing more to do.
It's pure catharsis. Letting go. Of all of your rights.
Wow. Well,
punching down.
Film. One of your favourite media.
Yeah.
Fair to say.
This is the fifth horseman of the Gate apocalypse.
Absolutely, it is. And this one, and this is kind of new ground for TAS, it has a specifically Declandian bent to it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Film. A broadly unfavourable, fly-on-the-wall documentary about your life that you didn't know is already being made. But, I mean, it's got a huge corporate backing and a groundswell of support. This thing has been on every crowdfunding site. And they've enlisted my technological prowess to kind of scoot you off those parts of the internet.
Wouldn't take much, I don't think. I only exist on 3 parts.
Bad already.
When you say so say it again.
A broadly unfavourable.
Right, when you say broadly unfavourable, is that, do you just mean like that my life is
No, I mean
broadly...
you don't come out of it well. The narrative of the movie suggests in a very, some would say, heavy-handed way to the audience that you are the embodiment of manifest evil.
Oh, I see.
Not evil in the cartoonish Maleficent kind of way, but just that like snide evil.
Insidious.
Yeah. The kind of person who'd punch a lollipop man.
If he thought no one was looking.
No. As if with
only with an audience of children.
Who were waiting desperately to cross.
Whom he then also hits with the lollipop man's stick.
And that's a very effective way of smacking a kid, is with a lollipop.
Yeah.
A giant lollipop man's lollipop.
Because I was going to say that, I mean, I don't think that they even need too much malicious editing on their part to make it broadly unfavourable.
Oh, interesting. Interesting little window into your self-esteem there.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of pitiful... self-loathing that the audience
cowardly,
just don't resonate
self-deprecation.
with. Test audiences hated it, so we made it worse. We foregrounded it.
We asked what they hated about it, and we exacerbated those bits.
What? So you've
when you say we, you're in cahoots with Gaten.
I'm being paid off. Yeah, I'm afraid.
Oh right.
You know, look, I'll donate some to your children.
Oh right.
Or any kind of immediate.
Well, after the film, I hardly think I'll be getting to have sex, will I? I'm going to be the absolute...
No, because there are people...
Maybe it'll be a kink.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's like the Manson fan club. And I'm not comparing you to Manson.
But the film is.
But the film makes that titularly...
The film includes an interview with Manson where he is disgusted by you personally. And in fact,
he's given a flip book
in
of
fact,
your average
we
day.
let him out. We let him out to make room
He's
for
on
you.
the press tour. He's doing junket after junket saying, "You think I'm bad? Check out this bozo."
And there's a sort of side bit in the film, like almost like during the intermission we could have, because it's going to be a long one, I presume, where it's just Charles doing all of the jobs that I haven't been given.
Yeah.
He just gets,
and he's
just
doing them
them
really well because he was famously quite charming.
Yeah,
sort of a leader figure.
So he's doing that.
That's the unfavourable part. How do you feel about this fly on the wall documentary that you don't know is and has already been being made?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Really?
No.
There's some very private footage.
I spend a lot of time asleep.
Yeah, sure.
So, there's
none of that makes the film.
No, but there's lots of time for them to like get in and make, like put the cameras in.
Some of them are from the perspective of people that you know.
Okay. Can you name them?
Yeah. Well,
well, go on.
There's me.
Well, I mean, that much we knew.
Friend and flatmate, Mark.
Yeah.
There's your entire family are in on it.
Right,
and they have been filming you since babyhood in a kind of Truman Show-esque pact with
and Gaten
with then fetal Gaten.
Yeah.
Then
and also preconception
Yeah.
Gaten. Wow.
He works in mysterious ways for sure. I think the pharmacy was one big front for just getting you in fun situations to add fodder to the documentary narrative that you are lacing other people's drugs with your own bodily fluids. For amusement.
See.
It's a very seedy, and I'm aware of the connotations of the word there, the kind of onanistic connotations of you coming over some paracetamol and selling it to a 20-year-old boy. Because that has been happening in the film narrative, and the CGI will make that apparent.
Okay. Oh, you're going to deep fakes me doing...
Yeah. I'm not. That's not my...
No, you're just being paid.
I'm being paid... Not by that department. No, I didn't know that bit was going on either.
Well, you know.
I know now.
Because you've seen the
early
first
draft.
cut.
I've seen the fucking pre-release. The screener.
I mean, I suppose, at the very least, this would give me some sort of hope.
Okay.
Because it would mean that actually there has been a hand behind a lot of the sort of pitfalls.
That's the same kind of thinking that leads all conspiracy theorists to be like, well, it's the Illuminati.
Well, yeah, but
it can't just be me with my lack of education.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that right now I have to live with the fact that I know that it is like my fault. But if this film were about, because this film is in production. It means that actually there literally was an Illuminati behind it. It was just Gaten Inc. and you, and my whole family.
If I can punch this down, if you'd allow me the freedom to do so, here I go. The film version of your life I've just heard this from the producers. Gaten's the exec producing this one as well.
Yep.
He's got a corner office and the Paramount lot, really nice, really good stuff. He bulldozed a few other people's out.
Good parking.
It was a prank. He doesn't park. He helichoppers right down into the chimney like Santa. I've just heard this breaking news. Third act hasn't played well with the audiences. They think that the word irredeemable is being thrown about quite a lot, bandied about notions of contemptuous simplicity of evil and a fundamentally hateful character. So what they've done is they've retconned in a real meteoric rise where this film version of you is a huge success by the end and spins on a dime, real 180, becoming the successful simulacrum of you that will always outshine your own existence. Because I do want to stress you have no financial fungible relationship to the producers, so you're getting no money.
No, but what
from it.
I was going to say it's not too naive to say that I could maybe like lawyer up and say I like other people have life rights. They haven't consulted me about them.
They were signed away on your behalf.
Yeah, well, they cannot be.
No, you were a child at the time.
Yeah, but I'm not now.
But at the time that you were...
Yeah, but I am not now, and so
it's too bad. I'm sorry. You'd have to take it out in child court. This is one.
Do I need a child lawyer?
That can be a sequel.
Okay.
So how would it feel to be living a life of people would recognise you on the street. They'd probably come up to you
and ask me for money
and ask, because they think you're just rolling in it. They think that you are the example of the Essex dream, as it's come.
And I suppose there's no hope that I could convince them otherwise.
There is none, because the
film's that good.
The film is so convincing, and we've got a dream team, a crack team of Spielberg, Jabrams, me. Lin-Manuel's doing the soundtrack. You better believe he is.
Of course he is.
You're going to be doing some incredible raps.
Am I? Wow.
Absolutely. People will be... You're triple threat in this film. And all three threats are rapping. So you can imagine it's going to be quite a
Am
hit.
I saying any gamer words
You
in the
aren't,
film?
but you dab a hell of a lot.
Oh.
And that's the kind of Gen Z.
To be fair, I dab a lot.
You do,
so,
yeah.
they didn't even have to fake that.
No, well, they haven't. They filmed it in our flat. That's why I've been...
Okay. Yeah, I suppose that sort of takes away any of the
fun
that I had managed to find in it, and any of the solace that I had taken. And therefore, I suppose that yes, Isaac, you have successfully. I'm going to put myself underneath your fist,
down right onto your. Oh gosh, I punched too hard, straight into the electrical wires. So there we have it. Is that all of them?
That's it. That's our show.
And that was our brand new feature, Punching Down. Now, we've said some dreadful things in this episode, but you've got to know that the whole premise was, what's the worst thing we can think of?
Yeah.
And honestly, I held back.
Yeah, well, I think we can all safely say that we held
If one of these were to come into fruition, which one would you like to have? Because I want to play this game.
Yeah, I want to play the game 100%.
If... Notch, he loves us and our
we could make this in Gary's mod.
Yeah, in forthcoming PlayStation 4 exclusive Dreams.
Yeah,
anything's possible.
We could maybe we can somehow
prototype it in Minecraft.
Fangle it in. Well, I was thinking in Mario Maker.
Very good, very good indeed. So we've got to knock Mario out in a horrific.
Well, he's got that
crash.
car.
Yeah, that's half of the work done anyway.
The whole world is bricks.
Yes. I'd like to pass over to you now, because this has been an episode filled with...
It's not going to be for a final thought.
It's going to be for a thought of the day, a final thought, because we have been satirising, and sometimes we're drawing from the real world, and that can be a sombering thought, I suppose, because a lot of the things we've said are not as far from reality as you might like them to be. Let's not forget that the whole...
Gaten Matarazzo actually is
putting on a play about Dr. King... where Mark Wahlberg shouts slurs for 3 hours in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard. And it's really very odd.
He rewrites history for Dr. King to be one of the stupidest men who ever lived.
Which Mark Wahlberg actually, weirdly, emailed about the project before we'd even written it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he is a horrid racist that, for some reason, we've all allowed to crawl back into society.
Basically killed someone as well.
Yeah, he was very proud to beat up a Vietnamese man, I think. He was something like 60 at the time. But because he gets up at 2:30, that is funny.
Yeah.
And he opened the Wahlburger, Mark Wahlburger in Covent Garden.
I don't get it.
It's a burger shop.
Right.
And his name's Mark Wahlberg. Burger. Think about it. You'll get it off air.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot to dislike, but isn't there some hope, Declan? Paint for us the picture of the silver lining as you see it. Ever a beacon of optimism in all our lives.
There is none.
There is.
There is none.
There is none.
There is none. But we tried to make, we tried to write and have made a very harmless, self-deprecating, dare I say, sideways glance.
Yeah. Which you guys love, our sideways glance, don't you?
At theatre. And we tried to make that into a sitcom.
Yeah.
We wrote what was a very good episode.
It is good, and I can say that objectively because I know. I have good taste.
And because we took 2 years writing it.
Wow.
And couldn't get a look in the door.
Now, if you put a racist portrayal of anyone in there, it would be being made by Channel 5.
Gaten spends, 2 years poncing about in the fucking...
In the 80s.
In the Upside Down.
He barely even goes in the Upside Down.
With his curly hair.
Yeah.
Fighting a fucking demogorgon. I don't fucking
it's very
know.
vaginal, whatever it is.
Yeah. And then suddenly he's able to make a show in which he literally exploits people who have nothing.
Swapped out the demogorgon for poverty men.
Yeah.
And women.
But he's still
people
fighting
of any
them.
gender identity.
Don't you worry.
God, he's powerful, isn't he?
So what I'm saying is that actually what we've done here is an exercise in catharsis for ourselves.
Okay.
Because honestly, any one of these projects has more hope than anything that we will ever make with any sincerity.
Wow. That's a really nice reminder for all of us to enjoy.
Perhaps you'd like to tell people how they can get in touch.
I've got one more thing to share with you before then. And in fact, it's a final IRL suggestion.
Oh, okay.
The sixth category. Because everything that we've talked about is in the artosphere. And the artosphere really exists as the kind of upside down to our own lives.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's really, really important. And I don't use that word a lot. And I do hate it when people describe anything they do as important, because often it's not. And
Well,
usually
it's not.
it never
Definitely
is.
is.
Never
No.
is. But this one for sure is important because it's about life. It's about what it means to live, to feel your viscera.
Can I just say
clench?
that you aren't doing your real sincere voice?
I for sure am. Thank you for noticing.
Okay.
Now, IRL. I've created a scenario. I need a gut check. I need a way to punch it down.
Okay.
We're going to get out without any plugs today, so just go out. That's a Shamecast. That's where all of them are.
Come for it.
Patreon.com/ShameCity. We've got a Discord. Get involved. Close your eyes, Declan.
Eyes closed.
You're sitting in living room.
Yep.
I didn't write it there. I don't know why. And you hear, quote, wet slime coming from under sofa. You look to investigate. You crouch down, hands and knees, like a dog, like a man and a dog combined in some kind of chimeric hell, an affront to God himself, many have said. And you lock eyes with a fetus, yes, with 8 octo legs that starts to whisper and moan, and that's with an apostrophe N, apostrophe, the phrase, "Lend me your cells, Mr. D, lend me your sweet, sweet cells." You're frozen in place with shock, your bones taut with tension, with kinetic potential energy, but too afraid to move, too startled to scream. And it's crawling. God, how it's crawling towards you, faster and faster. It's not far to go. Right, it's about 8 inches from sofa to eyeball. And it crawls damply, overwhelmingly potent stench of burning teeth, like when you're at the dentist and they drill into your dentine. What do you do? And how do you feel? Over to you, Declan.
So it's not how to make it worse. It's what would I do in this situation?
What would you do if...
And how do I feel?
Yeah. Gather yourself, screw your courage to the sticking place, and just let it out. You're amongst friends. Friend.
I think what I feel is similar to what I mentioned about the film about myself. I feel a certain sense of overwhelming relief.
Wow.
That actually the world is
Lend me
an
your cells.
objectively horrible place filled with
Your sweet cells.
such despicable horrors as not just capitalism, but the octo-fetus
Hello, Declan.
sliding at me from under the sofa,
I've got the papers.
begging me for cells. And I think that whilst it is
Put them in me cell slot.
abhorrent,
Stick them in.
whilst it is repulsive,
Jimmy the lock.
whilst it inspires one to regurgitate,
To my heart.
I think that actually it would make me feel just a little bit better about myself. And so what I think I'd do is I'd fuck it.
I've been Isaac. You've been...
I've been Declan.
Don't fuck a fetus.
The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Necessities, the bare necessities, the bare necessities of life will come to you.